right. Welcome, Miss Kathleen Klug to Perspective Shift. Kathleen, how are you today?
I am so good. So excited to be here with you guys.
All right. We're excited to have you.
Thank you so much. So, Kathleen, you reached out because yeah, you saw an episode of our, I believe it was Dr. Joe Dispenza podcast. So, thanks so much for tuning into that. Tell us a little bit about your relationship to Dr. Joe. Have you ever been to one of his conferences or anything like that?
No, I haven't. I've read his books. I listened to a lot of his talks and his podcasts, and he says the same thing. But every time I hear it, something new, something new, something new, and I think this whole idea of repetition is that mother of skill, and it brings it in deeper, like we just mentioned. So yeah, I love listening to him, and I was listening. I had put him in like a search, and I found you guys.
Love it.
And then you're talking about it, and I'm like, really, I want in on the conversation, because it is such profound stuff, and it takes processing and to integrate. And that's what you guys were doing. You were like integrating it through the conversation. And so, yes, I had to tell you, thank you for what you're doing, is really how I reached out, and say bravo. And so, yes, such good stuff. I love it. Love the conversation.
We so appreciate that. And then we, of course, when we got your message, we did a little background on you. We went to your website. We've seen you've got a great history in the health and wellness field. But you've been doing this for 40 years now?
I have been in different capacities in the health, wellness, fitness field for decades. And I love talking about health, wellness, how to help people with their integration of body, mind, spirit to get healthier.
Yep. Yeah.
But what I really try to do, and getting back to this work that we're talking about, is help them bring in awareness so they can have choice, so they can really improve. So we certainly talk about, behavior and how to change behavior. But I know that the upstream is our pattern of thinking, our beliefs about self, and all of this, these patterns that drive our behavior. So there's that saying, tell them what they want and give them what they need. Mm. They want, to lose weight, or to get healthier, or to start exercising. Good. So I can help you with that. But what I know they need is they need to go upstream.
Yes.
So this is how I apply this in my coaching.
I love that.
Yeah.
You start the foundation rather than, because a lot of times in the past, people would coach from the back end, where a strong will had to be put into place. And even then, people give up. But if you start actually from the bottom end, or the deep end, or the foundation, all of a sudden doing all these things, such as losing weight, actually becomes fun rather than laborious and arduous. And because that's what a lot of people that are what they deem to be out of shape are looking at the gym as like boot camp. And it's like, that's not real fun. I want to look at the gym as the playground, and my diet as like the ice cream shop, so to speak, but not minus the sugar.
Right. Something enjoyable.
But yeah, because now people are starting to enjoy eating food rather than stuff that the sugar would take over. So you're starting to see people enjoying healthy eating, healthy working out in a facet, like they're in the playground, not in school. Yeah. I was talking to Mike about this earlier. So we had to replace the school with the playground, because that's where we made all of our friends. Yep. And when you could start looking at health, like going to the gym or whatever facet you do, as you were as a child at the playground, all of a sudden health becomes fun, not something I have to do to stay out of the doctor's office and stay alive for my wife and kids. And that itself is what's killing us. So I like the fact that you start at the foundation of it. It makes it so much easier to build upon.
Well, and something I've noticed too is these the health, the wellness, the diet, those things start to come naturally once you really start to get clear up here and in here. When you're clear in your heart, when you're clear in the head, these the the diet, the exercise, these all naturally start to fall into place. They're things that you want to do. And like Frank, to your point, you start to enjoy to do. They become natural. Similar to like your book, you're starting with those little things. You start with one thing. You begin to move the needle one thing at a time. And all of a sudden you look back and you're like, oh my gosh, I've climbed this mountain. And that's what's so exciting for people.
Well, for sure. And there is the idea that we want to address behavior because that's what starts change. But it's always circulating. The feedback is always then with our thought patterns and our belief and all this. So to work on both actively then moves the ball quicker. And what I hear you saying is, as we change these concepts of ourself, these deep belief and bringing awareness, coming out of this unconscious, just acting.
Yeah, program. Yep.
Program. We can then start making choices, and then the results are health. I will say that these ideas, of course, as we know, and you talk about, of ourself, these concepts of ourself, how we view the world, our sense of value, worth, these are like in our body and our cells and our neurology since we are little. And so these can be a real challenge. I mean, it all comes down to awareness, right? Then you have choice, but the lack of awareness to what's driving this behavior, I don't know why I do it. I just can't. There's so much powerlessness and behavior that is so unproductive and making people sick. We know we go upstream, and so it is this undoing and replacing, but it always starts with awareness, right? Awareness brings this choice to even. I mean, I've worked with people, and of course, I want to lose weight. Okay, give them you tell them what they want, and you give them what they need. And we're starting to talk about awareness. And 65 years old, all she could say is, "I'm so unaware. I'm so unaware." And it's like, yeah, but that's the good news because now you're aware.
Yeah.
And now this is where the change happens. And what you're saying, Frank, about how then it can become something that you do, and you can connect it to your self-worth as fun, and this is what I do, this is who I am, and the results are healthier living. Yeah.
Are you a fan of Dr. Bruce Lipton by chance?
I am.
Yeah, Frank and I were talking about him this morning. I watched a great, they just released it. I don't know if you're a fan of Gaia, but there was this great episode that he did on Gaia just recently. They released a long interview, and he's talking about, the biology of belief and, everything we're talking about. He talks a lot about the victim mindset and, how it's so easy, to fall into this, and how our culture supports this and really coddles it, so we can, sell you the fix, sell you the solution.
Yeah.
And I feel like that is the trap that we kind of fall into, which is we've been these coddled good, little people, and we give our power away. And that's what he was talking about. He was saying every time we allow somebody to sell us a solution or provide us something, and we're really limiting our own power. And so it sounds like what you do with your clients is you help give them their power back, or make them remember how much power they really have.
Well, see, there you go. It's the remembering, right?
Yep.
Somebody came up to me, a friend that I hadn't seen in a long, long time. And he's like, "Gosh, good to see you. How you doing?" And he said, "Boy, you should color your hair," he told me. And I said, "Oh, that's interesting. Who would I color my hair for?"
And
For
yeah.
him? I don't think so. Oh, and it was just so interesting because this is the trap. If I don't feel good about myself, if I don't have this self-acceptance, then I need to be fixed.
Yep.
And I'm not saying anything about people who color their hair at all. I'm not saying anything about people, what they do. I'm just saying For me, my work is to change this mind of mine for radical self-acceptance.
Yeah.
Because somebody will tell me I'm broken, and so I can buy something.
Yep.
Yeah. And then when you buy it, it's a mere distraction. So it actually feels like it worked, but it didn't, because in the having it, you lose the wanting, but then that lasts a day or two or a week or whatever, and then you're back to wanting again, and that you fall back into that slum, which is interesting because now you have that thing, and now you wonder why you're depressed with that thing.
There must be something wrong
Yeah.
with me. I even got the solution and it still doesn't work for
Yeah.
me.
Could you?
Further driving that victim feeling.
Yeah, because I've experiences too with people I've coached in the past where they got to this place of losing the weight and having the money and everything, and they were still they were still miserable. I'm like, okay, it's those things will naturally come, but the misery is because you're needing more of that. I'm like, you didn't need it in the first place. And getting them to open up their eyes. I remember it was Jim Carrey.
Yeah, yeah.
So Jim Carrey did a commencement speech several years ago, and I remember he started out be like, I'm gonna paraphrase. I forgot I actually put it, because he goes, I wish and hope for everyone here to get everything they want so they could finally get on with their life.
Mhm.
Because the outside world is a mere distraction or a play, and have fun in it, but it's not the causation. It's the representation of where we are. So people are looking for the money, and yeah, right now you probably know this. Everyone's doing is it Ozempic or whatever?
Yeah, Ozempic. Yeah, yeah.
Ozempic.
For weight loss.
So, and they're losing weight,
Yep.
and
And
they think
muscle.
it's great. Like, yeah, but because like we don't know what that stuff is going to do to your body, and it's not. It's a momentary cure, and the excitement of going in and getting a shot excites them. And I'm like, yeah, but how long can you do this for,
Mhm.
right? And they lose the weight. I'm like, again, they're being sold something, and momentarily, I lost 25 pounds. I'm like, okay, but what's going on in here and here to keep the health? You know, anyone could do that. And I feel for these people, because I'm
Yeah.
like, no, I'm not saying you're doing something wrong, but now that you've lost the 25 pounds, what can you do inside to accept yourself to where you don't start gorging on food, or and even later on feel bad that you took the shot?
Mhm.
Like, I don't want to feel any guilt and everything, but it's like, what other work you're doing? Because surface work, again, it's like putting makeup on a pig and
Mhm.
calling anything else but a pig,
Yeah.
is what we've noticed. But now we're at this point where there is a tipping point in society where we're done with that. And obviously people like you, the world needs we're like actually at the foundation of this. Like, if you look at the Western medical doctor, how it exploded in the early 1900s, this new explosion of people like you is the foundation of this right now, to get people where they can heal themselves rather than a pill or surgery or something like that. I have nothing against those, but they're momentary, temporarily things. What got here? What got us here in the first place? That's the ultimate question. What got us here?
Well, for sure. And of course, the pharmaceuticals are very happy to accommodate this desperateness,
Yeah.
to give them a pill. And we're going to see a lot of backlash. We already have with these medications. And there probably is a place for them. I have learned that nothing is just, black or white. There's probably a place and a time and a circumstance. But until, as you say, the lifestyle choices, and then of course going upstream, the whole sense of self changes, then the behavior that got them there in the first place will just continue when they get off these pills. So and then there's another failure, and it's colossal.
Exactly.
And
That's
so
the
this,
point. Yeah.
yes, the cycle of this failing over and over then continues. I was just reading in The Power of Awareness, this line is just so beautiful. Concepts determine the route that attention follows.
Hmm.
Concepts determine the route that attention follows. Our concepts of ourself follow that route where we bring that attention. And when we talk about what we're talking about is our concept of ourself is lacking or desperate, or we need to do or be something else, then this is then where our attention goes, and our environment, including big food, big pharma, big,
Yeah.
they then go, oh, well, I can help you. I can help this terribly poor concept of you. You don't need to fix that.
Mhm.
Mhm.
You don't need to deal with that. I got a pill for you. Whether it's the junk food that's making you sicker because I'm sad, well, just eat this.
Mm.
Or I'm lonely. Okay, this'll fill that hole. And or whatever the big pill may be. And yes, we are missing the mark. I hope that you are right, that this is the beginning of a new way to address whole health.
Yeah.
I believe it is, and it takes a village. I mean, it takes all of us
Yeah.
to do this.
Yeah, in the past, I've always when I studied history years ago, I was big into it. Right now, I just not so much, but I remember like looking at statistics on changes on the planet, and it took a very small percentage of people. That's where I encourage other people. You're actually looking into this works. Like the Revolutionary War was won by 4% of the 13 colonies getting together, and guess what? Everyone wanted it, but only 4% were willing to do something, and it changed into a country called America. So 4% is very little. So if we have 4% of people like you in this world, the world is dramatically going to change. And that's the brilliance of it. It's not a 51% shaving. It literally is 1, 2, 3, 4% of people can literally outweigh the ship and get it to go straight.
Maharashi talks about this,
Yeah.
the Maharashi effect.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
I think he says it's like less than 1% of people or something like that.
Well, less than 1/10 of 1% keeps this earth abound. But now we get up to the percentage to get love. We're talking 2, 3%, which is not a lot. And that's why, people are like, well, if I can't get all these people to agree with me, I'm like, you don't. Even if you get to one person, that starts to tilt. And then the energy actually tenfolds. That's where the tenfold understanding came from. It doesn't just addition, multiply. It actually tenfolds every time someone comes aware. And then all of a sudden, just like the event horizon on a black hole, you get sucked in and you get sucked into this beautiful world. So the more we have these conversations with people like you, um, the more people get pulled into it. I see it every day, and people become more aware of, well, that was crazy what I was doing. And I'm the type that makes humor of what I've done in the past rather than I can't believe I did that. I'm like, oh yeah, I've done that. And I have
Exactly.
funny stories to tell about it, which is kind of the way I personally deal with it. It's not like I'm not doing it to hide something. I'm like, yeah, I tell the story to simulate and relate with people, but I no longer live that story. It's something that it was like it was like probably like if I was an actor, I had to do like a commercial to just get a paying gig, you know? It's like just to make money. Now it's like, no, I get to choose any role I want at this point. But yeah, I'll talk about that Mentos commercial I did. And it was horrible. I don't mind because, it got me here, I guess, to some degree,
Great analogy.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, go ahead.
No, please.
I was just gonna say, at the end of the day, I know exactly what you're saying, Frank. Uh, these roles, these characters, etc. We're not taught what this human instrument really is. We're more told, you're this body, you're this identity. You got to make your family proud. You're this religion. You're this race. Stand up for that. And we're constantly taught that we are this separate identity, this separate being from everything around us. And we've been hoodwinked our whole lives. We've really had, the wool pulled over our eyes. And it's like, finally, I feel like people are waking up to, hey, what we've been taught, what we've been told, the way our lifestyle is truly, like, by definition, insane. We are doing the same thing over and over, and we are expecting different results. by definition, we are living in insanity.
Yeah.
And that is that paradigm, that idea, that concept, I feel like it is breaking. I feel like people are starting to say, hey, you know, the food that, our society has out there, we know that this is garbage. We know we're being fed garbage. Hey, we finally now know, the news is fake, and and that's being shared, and people are finally saying, hey, something's going on here, and we've gone through 40, 50, 60 years of this same old, story, this same narrative. This is what, we were taught. You come into this world and your job is to make as much money as you can. That's essentially what we're taught, from a Western culture perspective about how to live a great life. Get out there and make as much money as you can. You'll find it. You'll find that American dream. And we've been sold a bill of goods, and people are waking up to it.
Well, that is very hopeful. I choose to also believe that, and I love being inspired into that hopeful perspective. I was teaching a class last week about whole foods. I start out with the standard American diet, which brings the standard American diseases. I talk about just the issues with this, right? And one of the gals said, she says, I think it's changing though. Isn't there a movement? And I said, well, our statistics say no. We are continuing to get sicker and sicker, fatter and fatter, more disease. And so our statistics are increasing towards disease, and the forecast doesn't look good. However, it's like when you buy a red car,
Yeah.
and then all of a sudden, oh, there's a bunch of red cars on the road.
Great point. I like this point. Yeah.
So it is when, and maybe it's kind of what you were speaking to, Frank, that it doesn't take many, but once people have this awareness, then just that, it's actually the lack of awareness is such a low energy.
Yeah. Vibration density.
Yeah.
You can't resist the high energy when you get pulled in. Yeah.
So then this new awareness then brings this energy up, and maybe it's that's why it's 10 times or whatever that is. It's like, because this low energy doesn't have a lot of force. I mean, it does in this dull way maybe, but maybe this increased awareness then just amplifies because it's a higher vibration, it's a higher frequency, and it's a higher energy. I don't know. I don't know why we have such like a small percentage that can change, but I love that. And I think it's a very hopeful idea.
It is,
But
yeah.
we have been sold a bill of goods, and it's such an unconscious condition and paradigm that we can go through, as we know, our whole life, never questioning it,
Yeah.
complete unawareness.
That's the design.
There we go.
Yeah, I don't like whether it's a design or not, I think it's just people that was reiterating what they bought into. So I don't know if there's somebody out there masterminding this. They just if you keep focused on the outside world and like, oh, I can make a lot of money selling Ozempic, I'm going to keep doing it because I'm still chasing that dream. But I believe it's like the people that are hoodwinking us were hoodwinked themselves. So at some point we lost sight of all this stuff and it's continuous. But when somebody wakes up and goes, it's kind of like almost I said when I woke up, it was almost like being on Punk'd, and Ashton Kutcher came out of the bushes, and like, okay, this makes a lot more sense. They were messing with me, and Zen Buddhist teachers teach in this very form on purpose to mess with the pupil, to where the pupil realizes being messed with and no longer get bothered. Now the Zen master goes, okay, you're okay, but they purposely do that. So yeah, people that agreed will do it unconsciously, but they're just acting in something. I don't think because I want to be careful not to say there's some um evil energy out there, like people start using the word Illuminati. Like they have no power over you at all. Like unless you buy their stuff, they don't have power over you. And I want people to know that there is no insertion of energy. There is me attaching to that and working in that, and I get results from that. But no one can insert their energy onto me unless they allow it. And when I woke up, I'm like, nice try. Yeah. And once in a while, someone says, like, if someone came up to me and says, hey, you should color your hair blonde, I'm like, why? You know, I'm like, hold on a second. Like, they, like, what is their, you know, what's going on in their head? They're short-minded. I don't even need to say it anymore. I'm like, thanks for your opinion. So what? But there was a moment where it would hit me, but then I let it go. And when I let it go, I realized, okay, I've arrived. Because before I would actually go and color my hair blonde, you know. Now it's like it hit me, but then I'm like, wait a minute, I don't want my hair blonde, you know. And all of a sudden, it's like, okay, that lets us know we arrived. So that's a little nuance that people like always like they're aware of something. Why does it keep happening? I'm like, it's letting you know you arrived. But if you keep walking up the mountain, the valley gets bigger and broader and everything else. But there's no end to this because change is the only constant. And but we want to be changing in the direction of health and purity and love rather than rolling down the mountain in the change of like disparity and everything else.
Well, and why? Why do we want to go that way? Well,
Oh, it's
because it feels
our
good.
organism
The
wants
way
that.
it
Yeah.
feels, yeah.
Yeah.
Like we're naturally meant to expand, evolve, grow. Move towards that light, like the flower reaching up towards the sun.
Yeah.
Is our design. We're not meant to have the power stripped.
Yeah.
The fear, the anxiety. All of those things are taught.
Yeah, I've never met anyone that was at peace and love that wanted to get out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I never met someone that felt light and thin in a healthy way that ever wanted to get out of it.
Mhm.
It's people that want to get out of something, that is the moment when they wake up, right? They obviously, when they wake up, they're calling you. So now your job is to like, okay, this is the direction we ought to go in because I'm assuming, you've been doing this for a long time. You meet them where they are because it's not one size fits all. You know, we can't, but okay, where are you? Where do you want to go? Okay. Because no matter where you are on the planet, the GPS can get you anywhere you want to go. But if you're like in New York and want to get to San Diego in like an hour, I'm like, well, it's not going to happen,
Mhm.
unless they come up with some supersonic jet in the future. But right at we have right now, but I can get you there. What's the rush? Let's have fun with this. Let's take our time, step by step, start there, and all of a sudden, damn, the journey is the goal in a sense. But I want to see the results in order to keep the journey continuing. And
Yeah.
that's why people kill themselves because they don't see the journey moving in the direction which they want to go. It's unfortunate.
Yeah.
Just at any moment, you turn towards the sun and it'll never end. It'll never end. Just
That's
you,
so
yeah.
that's so good. That's so good. Yeah, I talk and share with people that they're in these changes of behaviors, and as their pants get looser and they start drinking more water, and that this is their becoming. They're
Yeah.
becoming different. This is not a process that you rush. It takes all the ups and downs and falling and getting back up and to become this healthier person. People say to me, I know how to lose weight. I don't know how to keep it off.
Yeah, it's true.
And so this is the becoming different.
Yeah.
So this is the work we do, and to try to have them start thinking of a different concept of themselves, having the patience, being willing to get up over and over and over again. And when I wrote my book, I felt very called to write my book. I've read so many books on behavior change, and I've worked in it for so many years. But I felt working with people and hearing how they talk to themselves, hearing the voices in the head, hearing their stories about themselves, my heart would break for them because I knew if they did not change that, they were not going to have sustainable change. And so I knew my book had to be covered with the message of grace and love for self. That this was the becoming. The results then would speak for themselves. So that was a really important message that really the concept of my book, besides the how do you do this, how do you change, but it had to also be the why and the what do you picture of yourself, what do you want to create for yourself. This is really important to identify. And then they want to know, how do I do that? And that's how I walk them through the steps. So but the grace and the self-kindness and the concept of self had to change, and it is the process of becoming. So it's not something that happens quickly.
No.
It is the journey.
It is. And I think, and the way you present it, it's, you don't, they didn't do anything wrong other than just being misled. Because I don't believe any of us are doing anything wrong other than we think we're doing something wrong, which tears us at the very fabric of who we are. But we're here. Okay, where do I go? And, someone like you is going to show them, okay, follow me. And then eventually you're going to notice the path, and the path then becomes yours. It's not mine. But sometimes, as the parent has to hold the back seat of the bicycle in order for the kid to feel confident. And as they ride away, they don't realize the parent let go. They don't. I remember it happened to me as a kid, and I realized my dad let go, and then I crashed. But my dad was like 50 yards behind me before I knew that. And then my fear that I couldn't do it on my own is why I crashed.
Yes.
I thought my dad was still running behind me. And it's
Yep.
like, no, he was. He stopped a while ago, you know? But that's part of the process of like letting go and realizing. And, you know, people like you are very well needed at this moment, because people are aware now, but they don't know. They've been turned upside down, um, so much that they don't know to make heads or tails. And so someone like you is going to show them where heads is and just push away from tails, so to speak. And that's why this is the foundation, or I say the new beginning of this new type of healing process, new doctoring, if you will, where it's not a quick fix, but you're
No.
going to love the fit. You're going to love you're going to discover who you are when you go through this, who you really are. And that's the brilliance of this work. Yeah, I lost the weight. Yeah, I'm in a great relationship. But what I found along the way was really what I was seeking, not the weight. But the weight was what made me, go forward. But then the discovery of who we really are is the brilliance of it.
It's so true. One of the things that I know, and I think is in this field with you guys too, is when you have this belief, there's that idea, we don't give away what we don't have. So
Mm.
when we have these concepts of ourselves, then we see that it changes our whole perspective about others. The grace that you were just talking about they didn't do anything wrong. This is just a place now that they can open their eyes and now use everything. Nothing is wasted. They can use what they knew before and let that be a guiding, light. It also shows where they were and where they're not. So it shows their growth. It shows them later on that they can serve from this place because they get it. However, nothing is wasted. But when they first come to me, I believe in them so much. It's like, I want you to borrow my belief in you, because they don't believe in themselves. They don't believe what they say. They have no integrity with their word. I'm going to start tomorrow. I'm going to do this. And they don't, and they don't, and they don't. And they have lost connection with the faith in themselves to follow through with anything they say. And I believe, and this is why we also start with one tiny little thing, because as anything that you do in the right direction is moving you in the right direction. But how can a couple glasses of water really, really help?
Yeah.
Well, it moves you in the right direction. One, you're following through with your word. This is as important as any behavior you can do. And so this is where we start building. I say I'm going to drink 3 glasses of water a day, and I do. And I do. And I do. Okay. So this is the rebuilding of this self-trust and the beginning of this confidence then that they can believe in themselves with the smallest of things. And when they don't, and they only drink one, or they forgot their water bottle and they realize at the end of the day that they didn't have any water. You see how small we're talking. They can go, what was that about? What did I learn? Oh, I didn't prepare well, and I need to, okay, I'm going to reset and I'm going to do it again tomorrow. And these little steps to start with one, I feel is a place for people. They can start anywhere, wherever they are, and start creating behavior changes, which creates results. And also this reconnection to self and the trust that they can trust what they say. Yeah.
And that's because that right there, what you're teaching comes out of one of the most famous quotes out of the 81 verses of Tao Te Ching, that each, 1,000-mile journey begins with one step. But if you focus on the 1,000-mile journey, you're exhausted before you leave the house. It's the one step. So this proves that this is never fundamentally ever changed. You're just presenting it to people that never heard it. And it makes sense. But when you go back in time, the greats were talking, Lao Tzu talked about this. And that one of the most famous quotes that ever came out of 81 verses was that one. 1,000-mile journey begins with one step. And everyone could do one step. And then two steps. And
What is it? How do you eat an elephant? One
what?
bite at a time.
Yeah.
You know.
I don't know anyone who ate an elephant, but
But you know what I mean?
I was kidding.
It's
Yeah.
those. It's.
It's doable, and it's not doable. It's the way we live. We breathe one breath at a time. And over a lifetime, I forgot what the number of breaths we breathe, but if you like, okay, I have to breathe 5 billion breaths, in my lifetime, like that will blow your mind at that moment. I'm like, no, you don't. Just do this breath now.
One at a time.
And then all of a sudden, because we're in such a race to get somewhere, and we're never going to get it done. So why are we trying to get it done? And that takes the pressure off. This is where the power, I call it power of paradox, comes in. When we stop saying, I have to lose, like, I have to lose 30 pounds. Like, let's try to lose 1 pound. Right. And I don't care if it takes us a month. It takes the pressure off. All of a sudden, it starts moving. It's like, okay. But if I have to lose 30 pounds by the wedding, like, good luck. If the wedding's, in a month, I'm like, you're going to either kill yourself, which isn't sustainable. But it's just like, no, let's focus on 1 little pound at a time. Instead of taking away this, add 1 little carrot stick or whatever you deem to be healthy. And all of a sudden there's not room for the other thing. And all of a sudden you start to swap. Some people are quicker at it than others, but that doesn't mean anything. It's brilliant.
I think this is kind of where we start to understand, though, that the way our perception is really what matters. And you start to see that, okay, how I'm looking at a situation affects a situation. And this this is so powerful for so many, because this is when you really start to get in the driver's seat, because you're like, wait a second, just because I'm not there's not an end goal that I have to achieve by a certain time, and that pressure comes off, you kind of start to see like the benefits of it, and you start to see yourself get into flow, and you're like, oh my gosh, something's going on here. What is this? And you start to question that, and that helps lead you more and more for closer and closer back to yourself. What you can remember, which is, hey, how I participate in this reality is affecting this reality. And we all know this. We inherently know this, and we can feel it, like when there's a great public speaker, or somebody gets up, or a Disney movie or classic film, showcases these concepts that we're talking about. And we can all feel it. And we're like, this is right. And we feel it in our hearts and in our soul. And then what happens is we fall back into old habits. So then you start to realize, oh, okay, so this is a habit-based type of thing. So by doing that one thing each day and moving the needle, you're creating new habits. And it's these new habits that create different brain patterns that, bring us new and different experiences. And then we start to see that those are the experiences we've really wanted and desired. And it took us stepping out of old patterns, old habits, and into the unknown, the uncomfortable, trust, faith, whatever you want to call it, in order to experience the good. And so then you start to get comfortable with the uncomfortable. You're like, hey, I know what this is now. Okay, I feel a little bit weird. I'm not ready. I don't know if I'm ready to meet this person. I don't know if I'm ready for this, day at the gym or this workout, but I'm going to try it. And you level up again from that. And it's because you're taking the pressure off of you rather than putting the pressure on. We've been taught to put the pressure on us our whole lives, never to take the pressure off.
Yeah.
Yes. Was it Wayne Dyer that said, when you change the way you look at things, the things that you look at change?
Yeah.
Love Wayne. Yeah.
It's true. And I think when we take the energy out of our survival energy centers and move it up into the heart and to the throat and to the top chakras, whatever situation we're in is just a situation. But when it's survival, it's a problem. And so it's about shifting that energy. And that, obviously, the work you're doing is getting people out of that, because people I have to keep having this problem. Like, well, your energy's low. So when you're tired, things look horrible. When you're awake, they don't. So the problem is, why are you always tired? How can we get out of being tired? And so the physiology plays an enormous part in it. But when we start tapping into, like Joe Dispenza works on, is not the chemical necessarily, it's the electromagnetic field. And then the chemical actually follows. So if you want your pituitary gland, your all these glands to work properly, we have to work on how we feel about life and move up these energy centers and survival. So so what process do you do to take people out of survival? So obviously they're coming to you, so they're already open to this. It's not like you're hunting them down saying, you must do what I do. So when they come to you and somebody's really stuck in the survival, like, what steps do you take? And I know it's not a general thing, because it's an individual thing, but like walk us through something that you would help people get from that survival into the thriving state in order for them to just enjoy life.
Yes. I have an integrative life circle that I created to help people do a self-assessment about the areas that they want to improve. And it's a body, mind, spirit. And within each of those three categories, I have it even more specific. Like, it might be joy or sense of purpose or home environment, and their nutrition, their movement. And so they can identify the areas that are most needing attention. So that would be the first thing, is to create an assessment about where they want to start. And then we pick one thing. And it can be anything. If it is about their physical, it's all about health, because it's all health. But if it is about, say, their nutrition, then we would decide on one thing that they can start doing. That might be adding a whole food meal twice a week. It might be adding an apple 3 times a week. It depends on it might be literally starting with water, like I mentioned. For some, when they're not drinking any water, they go from 0 to 3 glasses. Amazing, right? So it can be very small, but we start at a behavior that's, I say, reduce it to the ridiculous, right? That so small that they can commit to it, they can do it, they can rewire their brain to, when they say something, they're going to do it. When they say something, they're going to do it. So it has to be really achievable. So we do that. And then I also, we'll work upstream with them and talking about what are their beliefs about this, about food, and where do they feel stuck with the story of, oh, it's just so hard to eat, or it's so expensive to eat, good, or I just have no time to prepare, or I just love food, and there's these stories. So just really beginning the process of having them explore these beliefs that drive this behavior, this unhealthy behavior. So I definitely have them identify a behavior. So we start at the end, because that is our behavior. But I also circle it back to these beliefs, these stories that are, the feedback. And then that's where we start. And we just kind of go from there. the idea of crowd out, you were mentioning replacing, I call it crowd out. Don't focus on what you don't want.
Yeah.
Bring the energy and attention and love and planning to what you do want. And the idea is that you will then replace automatically, you will fill in what you don't want. And Mike, when you were talking about this, just this, this process of um, resilience, this is what I was hearing, resilience. And when you start something and you're like, yeah, this feels so good, and it does. But I'm really used to writing with my right hand. I do not like writing with my left hand. You're going to tell me I have to write with my left hand? I don't like this. Well, okay, I know you don't. Just hang on. Just keep doing it. I do it. No, no, no. This doesn't feel good at all. I know. I know you want to go back to your right hand because you're so, it feels so awkward and nobody can, it's illegible and it's just takes so much time and it's hard. Let me just write with my right hand because I know how to write with my right hand. So it does feel good, but there's resistance there, just automatic. I know what I know. This new stuff, it's hard. So finding, of course, that grace and that the attention to the commitment of just the journey. It doesn't have to be done perfectly. It's okay. And you can fall. It's okay. A baby walks 10 steps and they fall. You don't go, oh, that is awful. Are you kidding? Only 10? We go 10. And they fall and we go, that was amazing. And they get up and we just celebrate everything. When we fall, we go, oh, I knew I couldn't do it. Forget about it. It's too hard.
Yeah.
So we need to build that resilience. And that's where I think that kindness, grace, really keeping it simple, keeping it small, and then giving my clients an opportunity to say, oh, okay, that is amazing. What did you learn? What did you learn from that? What was that story in your head? What came up? Yeah, it's the work.
Yeah, I remember years ago when I started down this route, um, where someone suggested I pick up a mug or a glass with my left hand to drink. And it's funny because doing that discomfort and now like with neurology on the rise and studying it, it changes, it actually blankets out all the neural pathways to where I have to be conscious to do my left hand, where right hand, I didn't even realize I grabbed it. Even though people think like, what's the difference between writing or picking up your glass with the right hand, which you naturally do, opposed to going left hand? I'm like, it's immense because now you have to be conscious when you write with your left hand, where you didn't have to be conscious when you wrote with the right hand. In the beginning, you did at school; it was uncomfortable, but all of a sudden, if you could keep yourself conscious, because I think, not that we have to get there, but I think the goal of humanity is not to actually have habits. It's to be conscious of what we're doing. Habits, like even good habits, will eventually turn on us because we get bored. I've been eating so healthy for so long. Let me start. I'm like, whoa, wait, you're just going to jump off a cliff? Come on. Like, don't do that. But when we start to, and that's why health never changes, right? Like, I don't even know what level of health I'm at. I just know how I feel. But okay, new things come up. I'm like, okay, let me try this. Like I have a trainer set up workout for me. He actually just went in this morning just to do cardio. And I said, I'll be back later. He goes, don't look at the workout till you get here because you won't come back. I'm like, dude, why would you say that? But that's now I get excited about it because it's a challenge. It's a challenge. And but if I read it, I might have to think about it, and I don't want to think about it. And it's the game. It's fun. It really is fun. We did it. Listen, we did this as children without being taught this. I remember as kids, like we not bored, but we were just playing and okay, let's spin around 10 times and then try to run in a straight line. I'm like, that's changing your neural pathways because it makes it more difficult. Where running in a straight line's easy if you're not dizzy. We were already doing this. So becoming childlike again as adults is the formative thing we ought to be doing by seeing if we could do this with the left hand. That becomes now fun, not to be overlooked. But I'm like, yeah, And I started doing weird things like that. And, you know, my wife like, just pick it up. Like I was trying to eat with my left hand, and it was tough for her to watch. So she's like, can you please eat with the right hand? I'm like, so stop staring at me. Because food was getting everywhere.
That's really funny.
It takes so much awareness, and
Oh,
like Joe says, we have to remember to remember.
yeah.
We forget
Yeah.
it because it's an unconscious thing. So it takes a lot of effort to change that and to pick up, oh yeah, I gotta pick up with my left hand.
Yeah.
And so this is, and gets tiring. It's like, I don't want to, I really want to do what I know.
Yeah.
So how do we then, and this is the becoming, this is this, every time you go back to your left, you build that resilience.
Yeah.
So it's this cycle.
And that same weird feeling we're talking about by reaching with the left hand, that's the same feeling we get, when we're trying to say something positive to ourselves and have positive self-talk. Oh, this doesn't feel normal. I'm just lying to myself. Oh, this is just crap. I can't believe this isn't who I am. All this heavy conditioning. And that's what we do. We give up. We go, oh, that's just not me.
Yeah.
I'm just not one of those lovey-dovey, everything's all right type of people. I'm just not a positive person. I'm just an introvert. I'm just this, and we label our stuff. And I love how you use the term or the phrase we're telling stories, because that's exactly what this experience is. We are all our own storytellers, and
Yeah.
we're telling the most magnificent story out there, the story of you, the story of us, each other. And so imagine if we were born and we came into this world and somebody told us, hey, you have this ability to think and imagine and create, and the stories that you tell yourself will lead to the experiences that you have. That's exactly what's going on in life, but
Yeah.
we don't share that. We
Yeah.
don't share this.
Well, we're
We
doing
act
it
like,
now.
yeah,
Yeah.
we act like
Yeah.
there's this world, this absolute world outside of us, this concrete world that does not change. And that's not the case. We're participating in this world. Einstein said it best. What is it? The sole governing agent, or the field is the sole governing agency of the particle.
Yeah.
Meaning how you feel, your field is the sole governing agency or agent of the particle. You're literally taking wave and breaking it into particle, breaking it down into matter. And so the more that we can share some of this wisdom, not facts, not science, not this stuff that we keep saying, but true wisdom, that's how we're going to see change in other, or we're going to
But the nice thing,
inspire
yeah,
others.
nice thing is science is actually catching up to wisdom. It's actually
Absolutely.
able to explain the wisdom. So in neurology, you're doing obviously Einstein in the turn of the 19, come into 1900s was explaining this.
Epigenetics.
Yeah. Yeah. All
Quantum
this stuff.
physics,
So
all of this.
it's easier to digest now than it was years ago because people have been learned to believe facts. But now I could give you facts about how good pizza tastes, but if you don't eat it, you have no idea what I'm talking about. So now we have to get people into the experiential understanding, and they're like, yeah, this works. It does. And like a job like you have is to get there. And that's what it like. I sense this about you, that you open this beautiful space for people to be honest with themselves, for them to actually have the experience. Instead of making them feel bad about where they are, you actually say, you're perfect where you are. We're just going to get more experiences in different perfections and different levels of perfections, whatever they may be. And when people like you do that, it changes the world. Rather than telling people what they're doing wrong and then giving them facts to do right, I'm like, that doesn't work. Opening space for people to realize, yeah, this is where I am. Wherever you are, you can get to wherever you want to go.
Mhm.
The GPS already knows where you are, by the way. You don't have to
Yes.
put in the GPS where I am. Where do you want to go? GPS doesn't ask, where were you yesterday? Where were you 2 years ago? It knows where you are. Where do you want to go? Stop telling me where you were. I know where you were. You know, and that's the
But
brilliance of the physics of the world.
it is, and so one of the early things I do also is have them get this vision for their life and then connect to it emotionally, and so they can start embodying it now. But one of the things I also help them identify is some possible new messaging for themselves. So I am healthy. I am love. I am love. I am full of joy. And they're like, this doesn't feel good. Like you said, Mike, yeah, this is a lie. This
Right
is
with the left hand.
It's uncomfortable. Yeah.
right. And I said, the true lie is what you've been telling yourself all these years. Is that you are not enough, that you are ugly, that you are this, and you're all this, and you're not enough, and you can't do this, and you're dumb, or all these limiting things. That is the lie. And the only reason why you believe it is because you have repeated it over and over and over. And it is a lie. But we will believe anything that we repeat
Absolutely.
over and over and over. So knowing this, you replace it through repetition. The truth. You start bringing in the truth, and you repeat it as much as you repeated the other one. Talk about crowd out. We crowd it out.
Yeah.
We silence that voice, not because we concentrate. Oh, don't say this, don't say this. No, bring it in. You bring it in, and I have them write down these affirmations, these I ams, these empowering thoughts. So when, not if, but when this voice, familiar voice of criticism and put downs, when it comes, they don't say, oh, no, I don't want to think about that. I don't want to think, because of course that's what they think about. Getting back to, what you focus on changes everything. So taking the focus off and bringing in the good, bringing in the truth, bringing in the power. So that is a huge part of my work. And if that's all they get,
Yeah.
I'm happy.
It's everything.
You've done
Yeah.
your job at that point.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just like planting a seed and then watch it grow. And how much water or attention you give to the plant or what have you, will then result in it. And I think when you see something grow, you naturally want to give attention to it. That's really what it is. And that's the brilliance of it. And this is all laid out, not in philosophy, but in physics. Because like what you talked about, like if I have $5 in my pocket and I have the capacity or the ability to deem it to be wealth, that five will turn into 10, then to 10,000, then to 1,000,000. That's just the natural nature of physics. But if I look at $5 as impoverished, that $5 turns into 250. Now I owe $5. Now I owe 10 grand. It doesn't, nothing is stagnant. So it's about physics. I'm like, okay, which direction do you want to look in? You could look behind, you could look in the rearview mirror while you're driving and wonder why the front bumper of your car is all banged up. Or you could just look at the damn windshield and forget where you were and continue moving. And so it gets down to beyond philosophy. This is physics, and it works. It works brilliantly. So moving forward, where we are, just go.
We're
Yeah,
starting to see that.
it's uncomfortable because you've never been there, but that's the beauty of life. That's why children were delightful. Like, this is why we were amazing as children. We had no idea. I ran out my door, went to a playground, had no idea what it looked like. Didn't realize I wasn't trying to make a friend. I just did. And, I did this to that, but I didn't plan it out in the sense of that. My joy was the plan. My excitement was the plan. All of a sudden, the things I did were healthy for me. I moved towards them. The universe is well organized. We just have to get into the stream in the direction which we want to go, rather than trying to create the stream or the river. I think that's why people don't want to do it. They think they have to create it. I'm like, no, you don't. It's already done. You just have to move it. Like you're the one giving them the direction and putting them in the boat and just pointing it in the direction. And then like, yeah, see, it's working. And then when
Well,
they get,
re-engaging when you talk about being little, re-engaging that imagination of all possibility,
oh
right?
yeah,
That we have just put a lid on. And when I don't know when that happens, when we're 6, 7, 8, I don't know, but when we somehow realize, no, that's just make believe.
yeah,
And getting back to those basics of like bringing that imagination back into our life and start really bringing possibility back.
yeah, because you can only look forward through the eyes of imagination.
Yeah.
Because my physical eyes can only look so far out the windshield. But when I'm driving to San Diego, I see the beach. And I don't really see the beach, but I see the beach and it's drawing me to it. So my imagination is the driving engine moving in the direction, but we have to be careful what my imagination's doing. Is it taking me to hell in a handbag, or is it taking me to this beautiful place in which I really would love to enrich my life with? And deciphering it and discerning yourself what that is the brilliance of this type of work that you're doing. It's getting people to realize, okay, let's start using the left hand to write. Like, why? I'm like, just do it, and then you'll understand why. It's kind of like the old masters would just have people do it, um, but they couldn't explain it. Now, once they do it, now you say, okay, you notice something different, less. Now start doing this with everything else in your life. Oh, I get it. So the practical has to be put into place before the lecturing begins. And that's kind of, but I imagine if people are coming to you at some level, they're ready to do this because they wouldn't be calling you.
Mhm.
It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, you don't step on a field um, unless you're ready to be coached. You don't.
What's the phrase? You know, when you're ready, the teacher appears. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's,
And they're in all different places. They want change. They feel like they're ready. They need it. They need support. And so they will present in lots of different uh, places of awareness.
mhm,
Uh, and that's okay, because we'll start anywhere. Just like you said, well, I meet them anywhere, wherever you are. We can start really, really simple, and we start on that feedback. And then when we experience this change, this ability to actually follow through with what we're doing, these small things, which we feel better, our body feels better. So we get more motivation, and then we start practicing this left hand writing and this awareness, and then it's already in flow. See, so, but we start anywhere. We start.
yeah.
So, do most of your clients, when they come to you, do they bring you the biggest story ever? Oh, Kathleen, you won't believe my life. This is what, you know, and they just start laying it out there, you know, as if their story is so different, you know, and this is the only thing happening to them. Do you get a lot of that?
Definitely some people, yes. Again, people will present in very different areas of awareness. And because I do work with people and they have said, I know how to lose weight, I don't know how to keep it off. I need to do this differently. That's a big awareness. So, but yes, they will have stories, and they have a lot of reasons why they can't do something, whether it's the family environment, or this is what their genes, or oh, I work so hard. The stories, the excuses, they have been practicing excuses for so many years. They're very, very good at it.
Decades, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. And it has literally been ingrained. And then there's a huge rock in their life, this barrier to healthy change, because they have been practicing and building this barrier to this change, and it's pretty solid. And even though they know they need help, they still have this big barrier in front, and they're stuck. They're literally stuck. They do not know how to start, but something has compelled them to say, I need help, but I don't even know what. Well, this is why we always reach out for help.
Yeah, because your perspective is broader than theirs. Theirs is narrow. So you can actually show them, it's kind of like the analogy I use, like you go into your backyard and you have a 10-foot wall, but you can't see the rest of the neighborhood. So before I take down the wall, I give them a ladder to stick their head over it. I'm like, yeah, you see that? Okay, now get off the ladder. Let's start taking this wall down.
Mhm.
So you give them, because if they look over there and they see monsters, they're not going to take the wall down. And that's always presumed that there's monsters. That's why I have this protection. I'm protecting myself because it's keeping me alive. And then you realize, no, it's actually the thing killing you. It's not keeping you alive. It's killing you. And when you get them to peer over the wall and like, look how beautiful it is out there. I was like, holy shit. Wanting to rip down that wall becomes fun. It's actually enjoyable. And, I tell people just put a 4-foot chain link fence if you need protection.
Mhm.
Oh, yeah, like I could see through the chain link fence and nothing's going to get in, but I have a broader perspective of life now. It's just brilliant.
Kathleen, I would love to get your view on. So you going back now. You said you've been in and out of the health wellness scape for the last 40 years. So did this start with like, hey, I really want to get into exercise because I know exercise is great for people and this is great health, and from great health I can build, wealth, happiness, love. Like, tell us how you personally, your journey kind of stumbled into, this consciousness realm, if you will, and how it led to you to where you're at today.
I started teaching for Jack LaLanne's at a Jack LaLanne's club.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Turned
in the
into
in the
Daly.
early
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
in the early 80s.
Yeah.
And so that's how I entered into the field of fitness. And then just being in the field for so long, and I taught so many different formats, from cycle to kickboxing. I was a teacher's teacher, and um, all these different formats. Personal training I did out of my home for about 10 years.
Nice.
I went to the Institute of Integrative Nutrition for the holistic health coaching. And then in between there, I also got my degree in addiction studies. And so my work in that field of addiction and early prevention and education. Well, when you were talking, Frank, about like the fence and the stuff, I was thinking this work I do, this idea, these concepts, as you do, work with anything. I say nutrition, it could be anything. And I saw this in the addiction field, that in fact, I when I was working in that field, I was like, where is the focus on nutrition? Where's the focus on fitness? Because I had already been doing this for so many years. And I remember feeling really frustrated, like, how come nobody's talking about this? In fact, for a long time, it was just you just shift, you go to meetings, you abstain, you work the steps, which is amazing, those are all good, but you might actually pick up smoking or
Yeah.
drinking coffee as your new kind of way to connect and hang. And
And those are okay. And those are
right,
acceptable.
Yeah.
Yep.
yes, but I was thinking, how come we're not talking about walking or eating better as a way to address this addictive behavior, and this really on the physiological level, like changing our biology in that way. So I just continued to get into this work, and I feel like, I guess I had awareness. I don't know. I think I don't know. I think God just gave me the gift of wisdom. I really do.
So was there something that you had to overcome at some point in your life, or was it like, because there are some people that overcame stuff, but there's other people that just stepped into it. Like they came here knowing, where some of us came to the knowing where something seemingly traumatic happened. Like, okay, this is so traumatic. If I don't start looking at life differently, it's going to take me down.
Yeah.
So like, how did this catapult you into this in this field, if you will?
Yeah. Well, I started very young in this fitness field. So I was already in this field, and I had always worked in it. And then I was working in the addiction field and continued in my fitness and wellness and coaching and stuff. My dad, I grew up one of 8 kids in an alcoholic home. And in my 20s, my mid-20s, I was dating a guy, and we broke up, and something was changing in my body. I mean, people would say, "How are you?" And I would just like, oh my gosh, what is this? It's just coming, something is coming. And I knew something was in me that I needed to deal with. And then my boyfriend and I broke up. So I started going to therapy.
Mhm.
And what I realized was I had a lot of stuff to deal with my dad. I had a lot of unforgiveness. I had so much anger towards him because he was a violent drunk and so scary. And so but I was always responsible, and so my life looked fine. I didn't know this was brewing inside me. And so the gift of this therapy, I identified it. At this point, my dad was sober. And I had this experience. I remember it being, I was scared like to death is when I knew I wanted and I needed to tell my dad, and this was what I really discovered in therapy. I need to tell my dad I don't want to be mad at him anymore.
Yeah.
I want to forgive him. And I remember when my therapist said, okay, good, when are you going to do that? And I thought, oh my gosh, the thought of it was
Now I got
so,
homework.
oh,
It's-
that night, the night that I had that therapy session, that I really came to that realization, like, oh my gosh, my body is vibrating out of fear. My dad came over, and I remember thinking, oh my gosh, this is happening tonight.
Wait, out of
And
the blue, like total synchronicity came over? Oh, that is such a sign. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's crazy.
That's how.
alignment. It's my transformation story.
Yep.
And I thought, oh my gosh, this is happening. And I tell you, I just let it out, and I cried from my belly. I couldn't even breathe. I was like, Dad, it was, and I was an adult, but this was my child, my hurt, the pain, everything from my belly was just coming out. And I said, I don't want to be mad at you anymore. And I want you to tell me you're sorry, and what you did, and all the pain. And he sat there, and he said, he just, no excuse. He said, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
And I tell you, I was healed. I
Yeah.
was different from that point on. That is my story of transformation. And although I wasn't calling it integrative health, that was where I look back and I go, that was my first huge experience with what integrative health is, because I was different. I literally saw different. I felt like, I remember going up to the mountains the next day, and the sun was brighter. The trees were beautiful, and it was, I saw differently. And it's so vivid in my mind. I saw him differently.
Yeah.
I didn't have anger at him. I didn't have fear. I was clean. So it was the most profound experience, really, at that point in my life. And that was my transformation story of really understanding what integration and what true health looked like,
Yeah. 'Cause
and
true.
getting unstuck.
Yeah.
True health was the best way to phrase that. True health.
Yeah, because a lot of people fear letting go. They think they'll fall, but the truth is, when you let go, you drift upward, just like a hot air balloon letting go of sandbags. You don't fall, because we're actually held on this ground by gravity, like even in physics. But when you let go, you lighten yourself, you become enlightened. So people are scared of letting go because they think they'll fall off a cliff. I'm like, no, it's the other way around. We let go, you become lighter. And crying, when you cry, you probably know this. It's the chemical release of the toxins in your body coming through tears, getting those hormones that can become somewhat toxic in your body, get rid of it. So crying is that last step of moving into it, letting go. It's brilliant. And just hopefully you don't start grabbing on other shit as you're going up the hill.
Yeah,
And that's
exactly.
kind of look at it. So the learning to let go, and the easiest way to let go is to grab onto something higher, and then you'll eventually have to let go of that as well. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's a brilliant.
Well, after this experience, I mean, I was different. I was different. But I also married that boyfriend that I broke up with, and we've been married
Congratulations.
for 30 years. Yes.
That's amazing.
And that was possible from this work. Everything, the next step is always possible from the step that we take right now. So this is that journey. And when we dare to be vulnerable, when we dare to ask for help, when we dare to tell the truth, then that allows that next door to open.
Yeah,
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
this is the journey.
yeah,
Yeah.
because writing with your left hand is being vulnerable.
Yeah.
It's a crazy. That's why it's like, so when you actually live in that place, you expand at what we call a greater rate. But when you don't, you're holding on to the old way, and the expansion and we know it. The human organism knows it. That's why it has a problem with it. But we're trying to logically figure it out, but only logic can only produce what I've experienced in the past. And if I experienced in the past, I'm not worthy. Yeah, good luck. That's why we have to completely reconfigure our organism in the neural pathways of our brain to open up a heart. That's really about opening up a heart. Because obviously at some point you opened up your heart. That's why you were shaking with your father. The aperture of your heart lets so much light in, and you probably haven't felt that since you were a child, maybe, and it was overwhelming. But when you stay there, you get used to it. But that's really what it is. I feel that like if I'm closed down and my heart opens up, I start to tear. It's because it's overwhelming because I haven't let the sun in a while. And then it's like, okay, how do I keep keeping the aperture of my heart open? I'm like, well, that's my daily work. I can't. That's not going to be a habit, by the way. That's something I got to focus on every day. Okay, how do I feel? Okay, where's my heart in this? And then all of a sudden, decision making on what to eat is easy. Going to gym is easy. Saying nice things to your loved one is easy.
Or to yourself.
Yeah, well, yeah,
It's hard to allow yourself you you, you don't allow yourself to believe yourself until you begin to feel or experience something like you were just sharing,
yeah,
Kathleen. You need to have this moment of like of knowing and this immense change, and then you're like, that was it. It was like this bubble popped, and for the first time you were you again, and you hadn't experienced those types of feelings that we're all experiencing, or we all have something like that, and we get it in different ways, whether it's a mother, a father, a relationship, a brother, a sister, whatever that may be. That's kind of part of this experience on earth. And I don't know how deep you like to go with your clients or things like that, but we chose the path. You chose this before you came down, before you had this experience. And for some people, this is like, oh, too woo woo. I don't want to go there, but I'd love to go there. And I firmly believe, I know I chose my parents. I know I chose this situation, these lifetimes. And you start to look at your journey differently when you're like, hey, I'm participating in this. I know just on the other side of this is something great, is something, a true feeling, of love, a true feeling of excitement, and it allows you to get through these tough times, these dark times.
yeah.
It's just we've been, kind of taught a very limited idea of what we really are, which is, you're a separate human being, and that's all you are.
Yeah, there's a lot of work right now. There's publications coming out in the field of psychology right now, which is very interesting. That they're actually looking at emotions like depression and anxiety as good, not avoidance. So how to transmute those, where in the past psychology would go to avoid them. Now they're actually integrating them. So, people like, I feel anxiety. I'm like, well, anxiety is the same as excitement with a definition that's not working in your favor. That's all it is. It's the same energy field. It's just you're blocking it from going. Just like if I was revving my car up and I never put it into gear, the engine would blow. But if I put the engine into, if I put my gears into drive, the energy that was anxiety goes into excitement, to the heart, to the drive, and the car starts moving. So understanding these, because people are trying to get rid of depression and anxiety, I'm like, no, you got to transmute it. What are we doing with it? And when the thing that struck me about your story was you became aware of when you opened up to your dad, that was the moment. This happened to people at least once a day, might be for 3 seconds, but they overlook the joy. So most of their life is in fear and they accidentally fall into love. Where when I'm listening to you, you're actually in love and accidentally maybe fall into fear, but it's so easy to get back. It's just like driving on the freeway and you get a little distracted and you hit the shoulder and you hear, dig, 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 let's go back left. Where a lot of people are now momentarily feeling love, but they don't know how they got there. For some reason, their heart opened up and they loved it, but then the other shoe drops. So people like you are there to say, no, it's not a dropping of the shoe. You understand what happened. It was miraculous. You did it right. And the contrast is letting me know that. Now, how do I stay here? Well, you don't. But when you're conscious, you're aware of when you get out of it to get back in. That's the brilliance of life. Because trying to stay positive or in love is going to be heartening if you can't. But knowing that, and then all of a sudden you realize, oh, most of my day I was in love. Okay, cool. Rather than saying, I remember when my wife years ago said to me, do you think we'll ever get to a point where we don't argue? And I'm like, no, but what I do, and that's not my goal. I'm like, it would be nice if we didn't.
Mhm.
But what it is I notice when we argue, our response years ago was so far worse and ineffective than it is now. 5 minutes later, we're laughing about it. So if I never get to the point of never arguing, but I know we have to keep moving up that scale of not interfering. There's more love here than argumentative aspects. That's how I look at life. And then when it comes up again, I'm like, oh, now I have to be conscious, so I don't say something stupid, you know, and be like, oh, what do you expect, you know? And it becomes a play for me, and I'm like, okay, because once I think, okay, I've done 10 good things this week for my wife, I'm like, you can't go to sleep because that's going to blow up in your face come Monday. You're like, oh, honey, but I was nice to you over the weekend. It's like, what does that have to do with Monday? And it really becomes this like, oh shit, I got to stay on my game. It's true, right? How much healthy food can one eat before they have to stop eating healthy food? And the answer is never.
Mhm.
It's got to keep going down that road.
Yeah.
But it becomes fun. For me, it's fun. Not so much for my wife at times, but
Well, you finally got you're now in the driver's seat.
yeah,
Life begins to get fun once you kind of see, oh, I've been the one holding myself down this entire time, and I'm taking my hand
yeah,
away.
yeah,
Like now, it's like, oh, I get it. I was my own worst enemy. I've been beating myself up over and over and over, and then that those feelings of joy, fun, true desire, start to come back because you realize you're no longer limited. It doesn't matter that I didn't go to college. It doesn't matter that I didn't have this type of job. It doesn't matter that I didn't come from this type of family or whatever story you were telling yourself that was stopping you from moving forward. You now let go of that.
yeah,
And there, oh my gosh, does life get exciting. I tell people all the time, understanding the subconscious mind, understanding consciousness. This is the key, the skeleton key to life. When this starts to fall into place, and we touched on this earlier, Kathleen, it doesn't matter what aspect of your life, everything starts to improve because
yeah,
this affects everything. This isn't just this is going to make you more money at work, or this is going to make you healthier, or have a better time with your family, or a better love life with your romantic partner. No, this is all facets of life. This is everything. And it's, again, like you said, a mind, body, soul approach.
But the health is the one thing that really is key, because health in the direct result is I feel good. Now, if you feel good, you're going to do better in relationships and better at work. But if you try to do better in relationships to feel good, it's a tough road to go. It really is, because then it's based on somebody else. But health is a personalized individual thing. No one else can stop you from eating healthy.
Well, flip that around real quick. So let's, we don't know anything about these topics, etc. I am the healthiest individual. I'm working out twice a day in the gym. I'm eating the best foods. And all of a sudden, I'm 48 years old and I just got cancer. This shit happens all the time.
Hmm.
All the freaking time. The healthiest person ever in this room, you would never fathom they could ever, contract this disease or that. And it goes back to the mind. It goes back to the soul, what we're craving. It's a whole approach. It's not just health. It's not just wealth. It's
Yeah.
not just family. And, it comes down to, what's going on in and around this instrument.
Yeah. It's how we deal with life, not life itself in that kind of space. Yeah.
Mhm. Do you see a lot of
That's
that?
for sure. Well, yeah. Oh, well, we see it. We see it all the time. And it's a interesting um, perspective to have,
Mhm.
to kind of realize this connection of how our bodies and our cells respond to our thoughts and to our beliefs. Because you don't want to put that on somebody and say, oh man, you made yourself sick, right? That's not received well at all.
It's not, yeah.
But But we do know that we are integrative, and all of that affects our health down to our cells and everything. But this idea of how we then continue on this journey of this awareness and continued awakeness of just, with this conscious, deliberate intention. And I tell my people, you may not always have motivation to do things. So we need some discipline in there, some basic discipline for the simplest things. But as you improve, then you have motivation, because your improvement is your motivation. It feels good. And so as we continue down this road, we know we're very motivated to continue, because it feels so good. We know we live a healthier, fuller, more vibrant, aware life. And so I think the further along, then we still have issues, and we still are improving, and we don't arrive, but the old patterns are weaker.
Yeah.
We don't fall back to them as quickly, or it's a momentary thing. We're creating these new neural pathways. We're creating new ways to live, and that does become easier. And then this motivation is the cycle. And so at first it takes a discipline. It's like the writing with the left hand.
Yeah.
And then the improvement creates motivation, and then it gets easier.
Yeah.
That's a good place to be.
Yeah, because motivation is this energy, like kind of the momentum of that's where it derives from. But and that's the thing is, we look at life in the outside world, it presents cycles for us. So there's these integrative cycles, like me getting onto the freeway, I have to rev my car up, put more energy into it to get up to speed in order to adequately drive on the freeway. Those are intermittent periods, but they're necessary. Like getting up in the morning is the toughest thing. But if you're looking forward to your day, you don't notice the tiredness. You just get out of bed and do it. And then at some point you forgot you were tired. So these transitional periods are the where you have to just do it. And then all of a sudden it happens. But people get stuck in that, like, why do I bother getting on the freeway after rev my car up? I'm like, it's part of the process. Just like winter comes in order for the strengthening of the root of all the trees coming so they can regain and live a longer life. It's needed. Like cycles are here, but they're momentarily here. But you have to get out of bed in order to experience that. But if you lay in bed, you're going to keep living that winter over and over and over and never experience spring. And that's what people don't understand is getting off the couch is uncomfortable and going to the gym. But then when you're at the gym, the momentum and the motivation is this feels good. You don't renounce the couch, get rid of the couch. You just got to know when to get off of it. You got to know when to get out of bed. You got to know when to put that dessert down. And that's the game. And it's brilliant because there's always going to be discomfort in every day. In the morning, you're groggy, and at night, you're tired. But it's part of it. Now, if I'm tired at 12 o'clock in the afternoon, I'm like, what the hell's going on? This is, So if you keep going through those cycles, this is where we have to reevaluate our life and say, okay, there's a change here. And we see it professionally. We see it from the minute to hour to day, and then in certain parts of your life, you find these cycles. Like, what's happening? I'm like, there's a shift in the atmosphere. We're seeing it on the planet, for the love of God, right now.
Mhm.
There's a huge shift. And people are like, I don't know what to do. I mean, just stay conscious. You'll know what to do. Trust me. Just keep doing what you're doing. Just stay conscious. But if you start freaking out, people that freak out are the ones who run to the street and get hit by the bus and die. It wasn't the thing that they thought was chasing them. It was the reactive to the outside world that put them in that danger, not the outside world. And understanding these cycles come. What do I do with them? You transmute them. You use it to your benefit. So when I wake up in the morning groggy, I'm like, I just smile. I laugh because it means I got a good night's sleep. And then when I jump in the cold shower, it's going to dissipate and I come out singing. It happens all the time. It does. And that's the thing about cold showers. When Like you never get used to that. That's literally like constantly changing your hand from right to left. I've been doing this for 6 years now.
Mhm,
My body's still no. I'm like, you got to do it,
mhm.
and it you don't get used to it, but that's what keeps me conscious. Because when I go in there, I'm like, I'm gonna take a hot shower today, and then something says you're gonna hate taking a hot shower today. Then I stop the argument and I go and take a cold shower and I feel good. It never gets old. That never gets old. The discomfort never gets old for me. But it's a momentary discomfort for the rest of my day to be joyful.
Mhm.
It's momentary. It's, like a 4-minute cold shower. I save water, by the way,
Yeah, right.
because you got to really, wash quickly.
You're only out in 5
Yeah.
instead of
So if you
15.
want to save water, just take cold shower.
I think what you're speaking of is that you have proven to yourself now. So you know this. This is where many people don't. They haven't proven that this action. And people say they want motivation before they act, and I say no, no, no. Action creates your motivation,
Yeah.
and all we need is that little discipline in order to start the action, then to start the motivation. But then we prove it to ourselves over and over that I know I don't really want to, but I've proven, and I have done this so many times, that I know this feels good. So it's I'm not going to negotiate. If I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it. And I have proven that I'm always happy afterwards, even if it's not a joyful thing getting in it initially, and you've proven to yourself. And that's what we all want to do too, is we want to prove to ourselves that even though I don't want to, or whatever the case may be, this doesn't feel good, or it's going to take some time, but I've proven to myself so many times that I'm always happier. So we just need a little motivation to start to kind of enter into that thing that we want to do. And then once we're entered in, we're there. And so we don't need a lot. We just need a little. We just need a little nudge.
That's it. And it is slightly discomfort, but a lot of people when I approach them like of I bring up these concepts and at first when I bring it up it's a concept. Until you experience it, I can't really help you. But I'll say, okay, they argue against it. I'm like, okay, but how is that working for you? Just give it a shot. Just do it. Not even try, because trying is just thinking about it, but not actually doing it. Just give it a shot and keep going with it and what happens. And there are a lot of times I could bring people back to a past time in their life, a lot of times when they were younger, where they were willing to go into discomfort and gain benefit from it. It doesn't change because you're older. You just have a lot more beliefs that are holding you back from it than when you were younger. You had very little. So, like I remember as little kids, it was fun jumping into a cold pool just to see the reaction to the body. Now it's like, I would never do that. I might die of a heart attack. I'm like, you're not going to die of a heart attack. Like, where'd you get that evidence from? But we're kids. We did this, and we
Just to
bet,
see how it felt.
yeah, we bet each other. So if we get back to that kind of playful way of doing it and challenge, that's why I like to see these groups of people that challenge themselves. And in the challenge, okay, I'm doing this challenge. And all of a sudden, man, after I did that challenge, I felt so much better. Well, just keep doing it. So there was this thing where people would years ago would dump cold water and ice over their heads, and now we have cold plunges. People doing it every day.
Mhm,
See what it morphed into.
mhm.
Like my gym now has cold plunge. That didn't exist.
10 years ago.
Yeah, and but yet people have been doing this for millennia. I've heard about the polar bear club every winter. I lived in New York, and I'm like, what's wrong with these people? Why would they do that? And now I'm one of them. You know. Um,
I like that.
because there's benefit to it. It's not just some crazy act. There's something about it that you can't really put your finger on. But scientists and a lot of people are studying it. Like I listened to Andrew Huberman, who studies the hell out of everything, and he talked about the cold water. 2 minutes in cold water is equivalent to raising your dopamine. Is equivalent to one line of cocaine,
Yep.
which is very interesting, right? You
Mhm.
could save yourself a lot of money with cold water. But the difference is you don't go past your baseline like you would on cocaine. You continues raising. So knowing this evidence, people are actually doing it. And then I'm like, okay, oh yeah, it does work. Yeah, it's uncomfortable, So
Mhm.
going to the gym could be uncomfortable too in the beginning, but
But you start to see the benefits of this
Yeah,
feeling.
now I actually enjoy discomfort. That's why I get into arguments with my wife.
Good luck with that.
Yeah, I know. It's just
One thing, Kathleen, that Frank shared with me probably about 5, 6 years ago that really was a catalyst for it clicking and my eyes opening wide. So I'm a musician, I play guitar, and Frank was explaining to me, he's like, all right, so look at your life kind of like it's a guitar, right? Your relationships, your health, your job, each one of those is like a different string. Okay. And so are we taking care of our health? Like you going back to what you're saying, are we drinking enough water? Are we going to sleep? Are we getting 8 hours of sleep? All right. That next string, are we going out and partying? Are we going out and, living a healthy life? Do we have great relationships? And you kind of go line by line, with work and all these types of things. And then you have to ask yourself, well, if these strings are not in tune,
even if
and
one of them's out of tune.
yeah, even if one of them's out of tune, how can I expect this instrument to play? How can I expect this to sound good and to flow and to, and that like really clicked for me. I may be trying really hard with work. I may be trying really hard with family and friends, but I'm eating like crap. Or, I'm drinking alcohol or I'm doing something, how can we, expect the body to be in motion and playing like we want it to be, when even if one of these strings is out of line, whether that's a relationship with a father or a relationship with your son or whoever, and you start to look at life that way and you go in and you begin to fine tune these areas. And then all of a sudden life starts to play and you're like, oh, I like this. It's working. I don't know if this was just because I was a musician and this was a very great analogy for me,
Yeah.
but it really clicked. And I was like, I'm going to start trying to do the right thing,
Yeah.
and then it was step by step, just seeing like, okay, what if, I get up early, what if I make my bed? What if I, eat a healthy lunch? What if I start drinking water and let go of soda? What if I stop drinking alcohol, and all these different things. And you're like, it becomes fun to try to do, the right thing or something different. And that's where, at least for me personally, I really started to see things start to change.
Yeah, the moment, because that's it. And when you become a better musician, you're less likely to knock the guitar strings out of tune.
Yeah.
So that's the brilliant thing in, and I'm sure you do this with your clients, where when you get to this place, now it's called refinement, not starting over every day. Now, in the beginning, it feels like you're starting over every day.
Yeah, it did.
Because when you first start playing guitar, you're really rough on the strings, so you have to tune it over every song you play. But after a while, it might go several weeks, unless the weather changes. You don't really have to tune your guitar that often because you're becoming more refined at it, and therefore you see this momentum. It's like it's no longer arduous to jump into the cold shower. I know what's going to happen after. So my attention goes to the after moment, not I could go in. So every time I turn it on, I just like, okay, boom, and it hits me.
Mm-hmm.
The second it hits me, I'm dancing and singing,
Yep.
you know?
You're already in there.
Yeah, but that moment of turning it on, thinking like, am I doing the right thing? It goes away
Mhm.
once when it hits my head,
It's funny how we play
Yeah.
that game.
Yeah.
That's a great analogy of the tuning in life. And we don't always take or acknowledge these small steps, these little steps. They seem so too small to really get us over the boulder or get us unstuck. But we know it in the other direction. Okay, why don't you just drink one or eat one donut a day and see what happens there? Just eat one donut. Or one hamburger, one, drive through. Just go, just one a day. Just see what it does. I mean, by the end of the month, you're gonna know it.
Yep.
And we can see it in that way, but those small things in the other direction towards health, they seem, oh, it's so too small. Nothing is too small. So I love the idea of fine tuning. And I have had the privilege for people who have sought me to work with them. They actually are very self-aware. They have really good tuning in their life, but there's a couple areas in particular, maybe their nutrition or their consistency with their exercise, but they're actually really high achievers. And so one, they understand the value of a coach, which I love. It's a no-brainer, right? and they know what they want and they know what they need, and they want accountability to do what they say they're going to do.
Mhm.
And this is how they know, because they're so self-aware. I love working with them, right? It's like, oh, let's do this.
Yeah.
So but I work with, lots of different people, but there is something about that person who really, truly is just fine tuning. It's,
Yeah, it's like coaching a professional athlete opposed to the Pee Wee league, and one isn't better than the other. It's just you could
Different
start the
places.
refinement of life in that area because they might have the professional athlete has a slight blinder that can't see it, but the coach from the sidelines can. And then when they correct it, they're like, oh, the athlete can feel the difference at that level. It's like it's the slightest refinement, you know. And that's how, like, it's yeah, we always need a coach or a teacher, right? Like I might be teaching physical fitness to somebody, but I have a coach myself.
Mhm.
You know why? Because I can't coach myself because I'm going to sit on the couch. I'm going to do the easiest workout possible. That's what my
Mhm.
body wants.
Mhm.
But
or the one that we used to. I mean, I
yeah,
I
yeah,
have a personal trainer too, and I work out every day. I have my routine, but I will go to my routine
yeah,
Mhm.
where my coach, my trainer actually gets me out of my routine. And this I like. This
yep.
is
That's
getting back to the fun of that growth and the seeking out of the discomfort of, because I know that that grows me. It expands me, and that's what I want. So I just love it when it's just so easy when people understand the value of a coach and seeking that help, the support, that accountability, whatever it is that they need. Because and it is, it's there's I love working with everybody, I really do, but it's just it's a different momentum working with people who have this self-awareness, who just really are there to fine tune. I love that.
Do you find yourself coaching people on a spiritual level, Kathleen?
I think it's all spiritual.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's just how it's what it's who I am, and so this is what I offer. If they don't want this, that's okay. I'm probably not the one for them.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And that's okay. That's really okay.
Yeah. Some people are still at the level where they want you to tell them what to do without
Yeah.
understanding why. And I know there are people that at this level seem to function that way, but they don't. And again, it makes up the world. But I'm assuming by just the way the organization of the universe is, you're not attracting those people.
Correct.
You're attracting the people that, and there's all different levels of people, but they have a blinder and they know it. And so like, hey, please help me with this blind spot. I can't see it. And then you show them, they're like, oh, yeah, that's it.
And then off to the
Yeah.
races.
Yes, well, I get back to that idea of you tell them what they want to hear and then you give them what they need. Some people are going to be more open to the need to really dive into these deeply held beliefs that have prevented them from the behavior that they want to create. And some of them are just like, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Just tell me what to eat. Yeah. Just can you just write down my workout on a piece of paper? Can you um and I can, but really they may find somebody who just does that better, because I believe the work and my gifts and my offering is more around the integration of really understanding and seeing that. So that is where I feel like I'm going to help more people. That's what I love to do. That's where my passion is. That's what I see in them. So I will work with those people, and I think have a lot better effect and influence on those people.
Yeah, and the
Yeah.
cool thing about when you actually do that and you work with people that are going to get more effective, it actually amplifies the energy within the universe, rather than getting frustrated with clients. That ain't going to help you either. Because again, there's people like, okay, I might not be the right coach. There's somebody that will sell you a bill of goods. I'm not going to be that person. Because eventually, your lying issue isn't that you need to lose 30 pounds. It's something that created the 30 pounds of gaining weight that we have to deal with. And some people aren't ready for that. But if you try to go to their level, it can cripple you. And that's the thing. You have to discern yourself. So when we work with a higher performing person, there's more refinement and joy in it. That actually helps the lower energy people. But me going down to low energy people isn't going to help the whole homeostasis of this cosmic collective universe. And when you understand the physics of it, it's not a snooty thing to do. It's not. It's the actual right thing to do. And then you create this wake, what I call a wake, where you actually have a gravitational pull of people up. Electromagnetic field is a lot stronger than gravity, by the way, when it takes it, you know. You can have some, you know, and when we create a higher electromagnetic field, we start to gravitate people up to it. And they're like, oh, this is what it looks like up here. It's like, yes.
And it can be a very gentle, I'm not a harsh in your face. And unless, unless just the excuses are so powerful that I just have to say, stop, stop.
Yeah.
No,
But but really it is it's a gentle process often of these suggestive ways to look at things differently, and to have someone dare to explore where these come from. So it is a process. It's not like, "Oh, you're not getting it, go work with somebody else." I don't do that. It's a
no,
very gentle process, because this is like, right, this is the big stuff. And so it is a journey. And I do love walking with people as they come into that and explore. And the result, along with certain, behavior goals and the how-tos, which I have a formula of, identifying your goal and your environment. You seek the support you need, and then you really connect with the awareness of a reward, because this is how we also build our neurology back, those neural pathways of reward, repeat. But so I give them tools
Yes.
while we're working on all of it, and the results are better health.
with your clients, do you talk about your upbringing? Like, do you bring up anything like that when you start to get into a challenging place and talking about overcoming challenges, overcoming uncomfortable situations, becoming comfortable with the uncomfortable? Do you ever talk about your situation that you shared about your father?
If I feel like it would be helpful, yes.
Well, the reason I go ahead.
The reason why?
Yeah. The reason why I bring it up was you mentioned you're one of 8. And so clearly 8 different people experience that situation in 8 different ways. And I'm sure there's a certain number of you that took this and turned this into something life-changing, positive, experience, and it made you the person you are. And I'm sure there's some of your siblings where it did not work that way. And I always think that's a great way to explain to people how this reality really works, because again, we all think that there's this absolute world outside of us and that everybody's experiencing it the exact same, and that couldn't be further from the truth. How you come into a situation, how you're feeling that day, if you're hungry, if you're upset, if something happened in your life, is going to alter and change the way you're experiencing a certain situation. And so I'm sure you can share, with your just relationship with your siblings, they're experiencing that upbringing in a very different way than you may have, who have come full circle with that experience. Do you mind talking about that?
Certainly. There are 4 girls, 4 boys in my family. So I'm a twin. I'm number 7 and she's 8.
Okay.
We think as siblings, we're all experiencing the same family. That's wrong. We think as twins, well, at least twins are.
Right?
No,
Yeah.
we're not. No, we're not. We're all experiencing it through our own eyes, through our own perception, our own concepts, our own, everything, how we receiving, how we learn, literally how we are made up, if we're visual or audio, or how sensitive we are, we are individuals. So we all experience this, what we would call the same upbringing, which is also different, differently. And yes, we all then responded in our life and our choices differently, and some better than others. I will say that. And I have learned to say, It is their journey, as it is my journey.
Mhm.
It is their journey. I don't need to fix. I don't need to change. I don't need to demand somebody seeing it different or understanding it different. It is their journey. And we are all on our own spaceship or whatever you want to call it. And we think we are all experiencing the same thing, and we're absolutely experiencing our very own world made
Yeah.
up of all our perceptions and our assumptions and our deeply held beliefs that are almost all unconscious. And so yes, we all are mixed, and isn't that a beautiful thing, and how different we are, and
Yeah.
how we can see things differently. And there is no this or that. I know that my opinions, my perspectives on things that may have been more right or left or black or white, or this way or that way, I those have softened. I don't have lines like that anymore. That doesn't even exist. So like what Shakespeare said, it's neither right or wrong. Thinking makes it so.
Yep.
So which
Bingo.
is a big idea, because we can say, yeah, I could see how that fits with this or that, but it can't fit with this. This is definitely in a good column, or definitely in the bad column. And then we go,
Hmm.
is it?
Yeah. And I I think why people fall into that, this or that, opposed to this and that, they think I need at least 51% of the population to believe in a certain way for me to get on with my life. And the truth is not. You could be the only one in the village that thinks this way and you'll live a brilliant life. When people become aware of that, it eases them up from actually trying to change the outside world, because you can't. There's too much going on. And like, you nailed it, because that is one of the fundamental truths, is that I can be in this way regardless of what's happening outside of me. I don't need anyone to agree with me. But people think it's this or that. They have to get more people on their team in order to finally live that life. That's why people go out there and protest. Nothing against it, but they're going to learn that doesn't work. If you want to really do the work, you don't need someone to agree with you to open up your heart. And the more you open up your heart, the more you indirectly and indirectly open up people's other heart. So there's physics behind this. And the work you do is teaching people that it's possible. Where the other way, it's possible if you get 51% people agree with you. I'm like, that sounds highly improbable for me to do that. We see that happening during election times. It doesn't work. Whoever the president is, it doesn't bother me. I don't let it. Now, it might not bother other people. I don't get into that conversation with them, but it doesn't change my outlook on life. Yes, I might have to look at it differently based on this person opposed to that person. Yes, that's how it is. In the cold, I put a jacket on. In the heat, I put a t-shirt on. I respond to it. I don't, God, why is it cold? Why is it hot? But people think it's this or that. And empirically, it's not. It's this and when we really understand that, it's when you don't try to involve yourself in somebody else's life that doesn't want to be involved. Because, the only reason we did it, the only reason we try to fix our parents, is if I fixed my parents, I'd be fixed. No, you wouldn't. And that's what, sometimes it pisses kids off when their parents fix themselves and they're still angry at them. Like, they don't even know what they did with me. How can they be smiling? Like, well, they changed. So understanding these possibilities and what you're teaching is paramount to a better, or I should say, a greater life. And that's all people need to know. It's possible. From there, they'll plant the seed and see what happens. What's going to come from this planting of seed? I'm like, we'll see. Not every tree is the same. Even if you plant an acorn, not every oak tree is going to look the same. But you're not going to get a fern out of an acorn. You're going to get an oak tree. It's
Yeah.
planted. It's going to happen. Like, if I head west, I'm going to hit San Diego and not Florida. That's just a fact. So it's
Well, this idea that, if you act, this action brings hope.
yeah,
Even if it's the tiniest step, it's that first step. And there's hope in that. There's hope of a direction. There's hope of movement and momentum and change. But if there's no action, then yeah, people stay stuck.
Yeah, it's kind of, I use that analogy with the GPS, but if I say I was going to San Diego, for me, it's about 5.5 hours, and I'm in my driveway and I put the coordinates in there. Let's say you should reach your destination in 5.5 hours, but my own 5.5 hours, I can go inside and watch 2.5 movies. But I'm no closer to to San Diego than if I started taking the action of actually driving. That's like if I never drove out of my driveway, I'm still 5.5 hours away two
Yeah.
weeks later, you know? Just take the step, and then, the GPS only gives you bits of information when it's needed. If I don't make the first right-hand turn, I don't get the next bit of information. It's the nature of life.
Yeah.
So just take it, see what happens. Even if I go in the wrong direction, it's going to recalculate. It will. It'll, if you eat something bad, your body will let you know you're eating something bad. It's not an accident. Like, I don't feel good. Well, stop eating that. You know, there's so much support in the universe around us. We're just not aware of it. And when people experience it, synchronicity, all these things, this is the immense support that the universe gave us. When we tap into that, oh my God, watch out.
Yeah.
Watch out. It's an amazing world. We knew it as children without intellectually knowing it. Went to the park and I made a friend. My goal wasn't to do that. I just did. Why?
Yeah.
I don't know why I was friends with that kid, but I am. And then the swings were there, and whatever was there, I made good. I didn't look at this like, oh, I've seen better. It's just amazing. The sun comes up every day. The amount of oxygen I need is met.
Such good stuff. That's such good stuff. Yeah.
Question for you, Kathleen. Do you work on nervous system regulation with your clients?
Not specifically. I do like to start with some deep breathing to just bring in a calmer state. And I do some heart math practice,
Okay.
but nothing more than that. But I think that is helpful for the nervous system and for the state to take some deep breaths, and whether it's connected with the connection of the heart math, the positive thought memory, whatever it case, it still can change the state, and that's as much as I do. But I think it's really powerful, even those simple steps of just deep breathing.
Yeah. Well, they give you there's like 7 needs for a human being, and the first one is oxygen. And I see it all the time with someone. I just tell them, close your eyes and take a deep breath in and sigh out. Do three of those. I'm like, how do you feel? I'm like, I feel different. I'm like, it took 3 seconds.
Yeah.
You're in charge of feeling good. Why do you think we like to work out? You're forced to breathe. When you're working out, you have to breathe different. Now, if you're conscious of it, you have a better workout. But I tell people, just stop breathing before you work out. And all of a sudden, you notice the physiology of body change. The circumstance outside didn't change. It's still raining. It's still whatever. But you feel better. I'm like, well, just stop breathing. You have control over that. And then when you breathe better, you drink more water. When you drink more water, you sleep better. When you sleep better, oh, hell, it's easy to eat the good food. We start from the breath and go outward.
Well,
Amazing.
absolutely. I do teach this as a tool, the breath as a tool. Viktor Frankl said, right, between the stimulus and the response, there's a space, right? So when people get stimulated, triggered, they go back to this old pattern. Wait a minute, there's a space between that and your behavior and your response. This is where you can breathe. This is where you can say, oh, okay, oh, this is happening, with awareness. And a couple of deep breaths in this space can have you choose differently. The response is different. So I teach the simple breathing, literally the deep breaths, like you say, maybe a hold at the top or at the bottom, to change the state, to bring perspective, coherence from the stimulus to the response, and to teach people that they have, between the stimulus and the response, there's always this space, and this is the space, this is the area of choice. This is where your power comes in. It's not about eliminating the stimulus. This is the world we live in.
Can't do
Yeah.
that.
This is the emotional state we live in, but it's giving them a tool so they can choose to do something differently. So, and that is often breath.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's pretty profound, especially mentioning Viktor Frankl, like knowing what he went through in Auschwitz and dealing with this torture and stuff like that, and how he came out, just wrote one of the best spiritual books ever written. You know, like how can someone go through that and see life this way? It's showing us the immense possibility. For me to tell people like, "Oh, I have a good life," I'm like, I didn't really have a lot of, like, I wasn't in any concentration camp myself. Maybe I could simulate with other people that went through I went, but like hearing that story, I have no more excuses of
Mm.
looking at anyone but with pure love, not the act in which they're doing, but the soul of that person. And that's what he would do. He would see those German, people holding him in there, and he would see their soul. That's what got him through it. And then he wrote the book, Man's Search for Meaning. I'm like, holy shit, because the story behind it is just amazing. It's like, okay, I have no excuse. And then you forget about it and you go back to it. But it reminds me of every time people like him really, really, really understood this deeply because they went to some really physical, harsh mental situations, but came out loving.
Yeah.
They really did.
Yeah.
And it's just, wow, how does somebody do that? I want to explore that.
Well, and you're right. It's a model. The Bannister, when Roger Bannister did the 4 minute mile, right? That was the impossible. That
Yeah.
was the impossible. And after he did it, then of course people quickly started doing the impossible. And they call that the Bannister effect. It's like somebody goes before us and shows us how it's done. That's that Bannister effect.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know it was possible. I didn't know I could respond like that. I didn't know I could do this. This is the gift of those who have gone before us, right? To show us that these things are possible,
Yeah.
whether it is identifying this choice in between the stimulus and the response, or creating anything in our life.
Yeah.
And what a gift that we have to be recipients of their modeling and showing us that these things, anything is possible.
Yeah. And we want to experience the impossible. What's impossible is what we haven't experienced yet. And that's the glory in this whole thing.
Mm.
That's the nuance of life. It's that little thing of just like you said, take one step and see what happens. Like, oh my God. Well, keep taking that one step. And there's a famous poem, I think it's by E. Cummings, but I forgot. It's day by day by day by day, nothing seems to change. But when I look back, everything is different. So sometimes the
Mm.
mundane doesn't seem to be working, but it does. If you keep doing it, you notice the change, and then you get excited about the mundane. It's no longer mundane. It's getting up and going to gym and eating every day. When's this going to end? Never. But why does it bother you? It should be fun eating healthy and having fun with your friends and working out and going for bike rides. That should be the glorious thing you do, not the Disney World adventure that's once a year you do that. It should be that every day should be that beautiful thing.
It's just a flip in the switch of how we look at things.
Yeah.
It's just a change in that perspective. Hence the reason we named this series Perspective Shift. That's what we're all doing day in, day out.
Yeah.
But the reason I wanted to ask that to you, Kathleen, is the one thing that I noticed for me personally on my journey was I didn't feel like I deserved or had earned the the ability to relax or to feel good about myself. I hadn't earned that yet. I don't deserve it. And so the reason I asked about the nervous system regulation is once I started to realize that this I want to say drive, but that's a nice word for it. This like constant it's almost like this worry, this angst, like I need to be doing more. Um it wasn't until I started to relax. Like what I've realized is that 98% of the Western society, we don't know how to relax, and most of us, the majority of us, I think, don't feel like we deserve to relax. We don't have enough money in the bank. We don't have the ideal job. We don't have that house. Our kids still need, something. I can't relax. There's too much out there. I need to get a health insurance plan, and then I need to get, my life insurance plan in place. There's going to be always something, and we don't allow ourselves to ever relax. And this state of stress, this state of constant, worry, this is horrid for our health, for our mental health, our performance, our well-being. And if people really knew what, the benefits were of relaxing, oh my gosh, we would live in a different world. And you can look at it from the perspective of when you get sick, when you are so sick and down and out, what is the only thing you can do? And it's simply let go. I need to sleep. I need to be there. You just completely and totally let go and relax. Like you have no other choice. And what happens? The body heals. Well, what if we relax just like that, but we weren't sick? Imagine where the body would go and what would happen. And so I started to implement this, and oh my gosh, was it life changing for me? You there is nothing you must do or earn or be in order to find love, or in order to find love for yourself is what I mean, or to find to be deserving of love, or deserving of relaxation. And I just figured that would be a very, a kind of a fun point to cover about your steps with your clients.
Hence the
Well,
breathing.
it sounds, yeah, it sounds like, I think of grace and trust.
Mhm.
That's what it sounds like this process that you went through. Somehow you found the space to give yourself some grace to just be and to let go, and that you trusted the process, whether we understand the process or not. The letting go is about just trusting what we don't fully understand, and then giving ourselves the grace just to kind of fall and to lean into that. That's what I heard. And I think that this is definitely my message in my own way as I work with people, that this idea of trust the process. You don't have to know, like it was mentioned, you don't have to know what's behind the next door or that fence. Just trust the process. Trust me enough to just trust that this is going to move you,
Yeah.
even though you can't see it and you don't. And then the grace to give ourselves the time and the space and the quiet or whatever we may need to move into that space that you're talking about.
Yeah.
That's a practice, as you know.
Yeah, it's like because it is like if you trust when you go to the party with immense grace, the party begins. But if you go to the party expecting this to be, and if that doesn't, I'm leaving. So grace allows you to just accept whatever, and then all of a sudden you go from that to knowing, and it is amazing. There's a knowing of not knowing, hence where you know, Socrates came up with, I know nothing. And that's kind of the premise of it. It's like when you know something and it doesn't work out that way, your grace is gone. Why is this person here? What are they doing here? Why aren't they serving this? Where the most graceful person shows up to a party, regardless of what's there, and just gracefully walks in and enjoys it and actually makes the party without knowing anything before they walked in that door. And that's how we should walk into our lives, with immense grace and knowing that our grace is going to make it so.
Mhm.
It's how we approach it. I'm like, okay, this is it. This is not supposed to be happening. It says whom? We don't know that. And then all of a sudden, the interaction with the outside world becomes brilliant. And then all of a sudden, people notice accolades, but that's not why I'm doing it.
Mhm.
Like Gandhi wasn't looking for fame. His grace in the world. Like, think about this. One man without a weapon got the British Empire to leave his country. So tell me, love doesn't conquer. But there are people saying, well, if I have missiles, yeah, what you do is you temporarily shut people up. But then many years later, their kids grow up and they start, and then terrorists start. I'm like, with Gandhi, it wasn't that way. So
Mhm.
there's two ways of looking at it. And his grace, he had no idea he was going to become famous. He certainly was not looking for that.
No.
Yeah, that's one way of doing it. And it's like, okay, that's the way I want to experience life in that form of stepping into the world. And that's the brilliance of it. Yeah.
I
And go ahead.
oh please.
Well, it makes me think of like in this expectation can get us in trouble. But what if our assumptions, if we direct our assumptions to, I'm going to assume this is going to be beautiful. I'm going to assume this is going to be great. I'm going to assume that it's going to work out just the way it's supposed to.
Yeah.
We are so on the same brainwave.
Yeah,
That
because that's what allows you to go to that party because you assume it's going to be horrible. You'd stay home. So I'm like, no, it's going to be good, but I don't know why. But once the party's over, then you could probably like, oh, because I met this person, that person. But prior to it, we had no idea. And that's the brilliance of it, is it stepping into the unknown with grace allows it to be brilliant.
there's this individual named Bashar, and Frank and I love his stuff. And he shared a quote, and this was what I was going to share right when you just shared that beautiful statement, Kathleen. But he explains that we are always trusting in something. We either just happen to be trusting in the thing we're worried about, or and don't want, or anticipate. Why not flip the script and begin to trust in something in your favor? It's either one or the other,
Yeah.
and we're always doing it and it's always there. Why not put that trust in the fact that something could work out? And it's so funny because something won't go our way, or we don't, and we go, yep, see, I knew this was going to happen, I knew it,
Yeah.
and we will always point out the evidence of what we're thinking. But as soon as we start to change, where we put that trust, those different examples also begin to change. And oh man, I thank God I was trusting because I met this person and then this opportunity happened. So I am right there with you, Kathleen. I think that's exactly what we should be
Yeah,
doing.
because that's what he said. Doubt is 100% trust in something that's not preferential.
Yeah.
And so why wouldn't you trust in a preferential? Because we think we need to know how it's going to happen. Like, no, that's the brilliance is not.
Mm-hmm.
Like the greatest story is like you ask, like, so how did you meet your husband?
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden, you're like, you smile, and it's like it wasn't like like your mother made you marry him.
Mm-hmm.
It was like you ran into him, and the story is how you met, and it was seemed cosmic meeting. It wasn't this deliberate, um, you know, logical way of doing it. It just happened. And that's the stories like, how did you end up in this profession? Oh, well, I went to school for this, but then this happened. It's like this brilliant story of how you ended up here. Nobody, what do they say, right? If you want to hear God laugh,
Tell them your
tell him
plans.
your plans. But like, or while you're busy planning, life is happening, you know, and it's when you start to trust that, I'm like, okay, when I stay conscious, I don't really need to plan, so to speak, or that is the plan. All of a sudden, life unfolds. And because my excitement of it, I actually enjoy everything that happens. But you're helping people can get them at least knowing that's possible. They might not be there right now. Who is, right? Um, maybe momentarily we are, but knowing the exercise you're doing, and one day they realize, oh my God, they've been pedaling the bicycle without the parent holding the seat, and they weren't unaware of it. I'm like, see, you're there.
Yeah.
There's just more there to get. There's
Mhm.
no end to there. I think that's what people think. Like, okay, when am I? I'm like, no, there's no big
When does it just
prize.
get perfect? When does
Yeah,
never
no,
another bad thing ever happen?
no,
That's not
no.
how this works.
Yeah, like the guy who was tight roping across the building eventually had to do it across the Grand Canyon, right?
Mhm.
Because there's a lot more at stake there with the wind blowing. But yet, it was bringing that on. Like when the guy did it, it was like 90-mile-an-hour winds. He had to lean into it,
Mhm.
which it's just crazy. But it was made him more conscious doing that than just say walking down the sidewalk. So someone like him had to take that next level, and that's what we all want. We crave a higher place, but you just have to step into it, know and trust that's all going to work out when you remain conscious. And conscious is a state that we can obtain every moment, you know. I accidentally get out of it, but I know how to get back into it. Getting out of it shows me I'm not there, and which makes me conscious of it. And I right now, that's my brilliance. That's my fun, I should say. And it's kind of cool.
It is cool.
Yeah.
We are all works in progress.
Yes.
That's the best way to say it.
We're not done.
So what's next for you, Kathleen? What's on your radar right now? Are we working on any new book? Is there anything that you want to share with the audience?
I am going to be doing some remote work and some traveling, so we're actually very excited about that. We're coming into the next season of our life, which is really fun. I think that these years that I'm in and my husband is in are kind of this culmination of our experience, our education, and everything kind of coming together in just the years of wisdom to really expand into the service that we do. For me, it's like this is like the time. This feels like really productive time to serve, to get my message out, and I call my message hope for healing and health, because I do believe it is hope. And so there may be a book, there may be another book in me. I'm continuing with my work, with my coaching.
What about courses, workshops? Are you doing anything like that?
I have an e-course actually on my website. Yes, and I'm working on some collaborations.
Nice.
So that'll be fun, and I'm trusting the process, and I'm assuming the best.
Right.
And I'm finding ease in that. This is where my trust in not just the process, but the trust in the ease.
Yeah.
So that's my active awareness right now. And just, I really feel like this is a divine message that I am here to deliver. And so I will continue to do the work that is in front of me, and then trust that it will go where it's supposed to go. That's what I'm
And it
doing.
will.
Yeah, because your message is what we call empirical truth.
Yeah.
It's applying it will create these other truths, and that's why, unless you're not ready, it's very difficult to deny.
Mm-hmm.
But truth has to be experienced.
Yeah, yeah.
You're there. You're doing a great job at sending out there to allow people that otherwise wouldn't have. And that's why we're all here. We're here to service each other, whatever format and whatever abilities we have. That is the greatest gift, is to service others
and showcase those gifts. And that's why we were so excited to have you on today, Kathleen, was to showcase your gift, what you're giving back to the community. What can someone expect from like your e-course?
I walk them through the start with one idea. I talk about how to connect with a reason, like your why. I call it your why. Why do you want change? So this is the beginning of also the exercise of bringing awareness in. And then what does that look like? So the why, the what does that look like? Getting a vision for ourselves, connecting that on an emotional level. So identifying why and what, and then I help them walk through the how of the actual behavior change, and in this get in gear skills, and in the areas of, we know it's all areas, but in particular their food, their nutrition, their sleep patterns, their movement habits, and in those areas, because although it works in all areas, this is really what my specialty is. And so I know how to help people identify foods and ways to improve your nutrition and stuff like that. So that's what I do in my e-course. And then I do individual coaching. And I do love that. That's very individual. I also have group coaching also. And so that's what I'm doing
via Zoom. Can somebody do that coaching with you via Zoom?
All Zoom.
Okay. So it is all Zoom. Okay.
It is all Zoom.
Not have to be local to you.
Do you know, before COVID, I was looking for a space to do groups, actual physical space. because I was doing individual coaching, and I thought I wanted to expand more into coaching. Well, then COVID happened, and what a gift of COVID. We now do everything with Zoom.
That's why I made
So,
a podcast.
Yep. Because of COVID.
Yeah, because we would do. I was doing a.
and,
Yeah, I'm sorry.
oh, well, so I also work for a medical group, and I facilitate groups in their health program, and we're all by Zoom. We do everything by Zoom, and we'll have 20 to 60 people in the group. So we don't have to worry about space. It's convenient for everybody. So yes, I'm very grateful for Zoom. And so all of my work right now is through Zoom, individual, in group, and then of course the e-course. So, and I did collaborate with my twin sister
Oh,
on
really?
a course, yeah, called
Right
Living
on.
on Purpose. Yeah, so we did that, and it's modules for water, sleep, nutrition, exercise, hormone health, and all that.
All right.
And so, yeah, that was really fun.
And so, how can people find you?
They can find me at Kathleen Klug, KLUG.com, and also KathleenKlugBook.com.
Okay. And we'll put
Yeah.
those we'll put those links under, so
Across
if
the
people
bottom of
don't
this video.
remember that, they can at the end of the episode they can click on it and go right to you. So,
Yeah, and take a look. Are you on any other social media? I noticed you did have a YouTube channel, right? You've got at least a channel built out.
Yes, well, I pretend to have a YouTube channel. I put a couple things on there. It's I don't even remember the name. I'm on Instagram at Kathleen Klug Health.
okay.
And so, yeah, this social media, I know it's important, and I do have some help with it. It's not, I've had to really check my beliefs about that, because I'm like, I don't like this. And so I've had to shift
More dry money in the
thinking of,
pan. Yep.
But also go in trusting whether, because we can get too, like, you could also get too caught up in when people are like, you have to be on social media. I'm like, well, you don't really have to be, but just being open to it and trust it, you'll know what to go on, what not to. It's just how it works.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a brilliance of
You're
it.
supposed to be on Instagram for some reason. That's
Yeah.
the avenue that some of your clients, your
Yeah.
students, they're finding you at, and that's what I've really learned too, is allowing everything to just kind of fall in place. Like, I don't have to be doing this. I don't have to be doing that. As doors open, more will continue to open, and I'm right where I should be.
It also helps the social media algorithm when people like you are on Instagram.
Yep.
So there's, because a lot of stuff that's on there, it's like, wow, this is crazy.
Mm-hmm.
It's like going to a buffet and there's nothing but donuts and cookies. I'm like, well, there's some good avocado over there. It's like, so it's needed for that reason to switch the algorithm because people are searching for it. The other stuff is just mere distractions. This stuff is actually insightful.
Yeah.
It's not a distraction. It's insightful. It's insightfulness, the pure idea of entertainment in my eyes,
Mm-hmm.
where the other stuff is just mere distraction.
Yeah.
And having you on these platforms is helping the world one step at a time.
That's for sure. We want to thank you immensely for coming on the
Yeah.
show today, Kathleen. It was honestly our pleasure. It was an honor to have you, and we will absolutely have to have you back on the show sometime.
Yeah.
thank you for having me. Seriously, when I first heard you, I'm like, I want to just chat about this stuff. I want to share and explore. And so this was so fun for me. I just so appreciate your willingness to have me, and as a guest, as a we're just sitting here chatting. I feel like you're my brothers.
Yeah.
And
So
that's how it should be. We all are, and we're all trying to get this message out there. And so if we can help highlight someone like you out there sharing this message, Frank and I, that is such a win for us. We
Yeah.
wanted to create that safe space where it's like, hey guys, we don't have to get together and talk about how horrible life is, or how bad your boss stinks, or how you don't get along with your partner. There's a lot more to life out there. There's a lot of people loving life, enjoying life, wanting to share. And so you were a perfect person to highlight, and you're touching lots of lives, and that's the best thing you can do for the community.
Yeah. You're doing great work.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for the encouragement. Thank you for this conversation. It was very special for me. And I so appreciate being able to be with you these last couple hours. So thank you.
All right.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Let's
Well,
stay in touch.
We'll invite you back on.
Yeah.
Okay. Sounds good. Sounds wonderful. I'll look forward to it.
Thanks so much, Kathleen. Take care.
Enjoy. Peace out.
Peace out. Thank you.
Bye, guys.